Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones, putting a cap here on a pretty rough weekend for Purdue sports fans. We'll talk about Purdue getting blown out at Mackey Arena against Iowa State. Iowa State wins 81-58. A real shell shock if you're a Purdue fan. Plenty to get into, and we'll kind of take a view here. Now that we're a month into the season, Purdue has played, 9 games now? A full month is done, so we'll kind of talk about where Purdue sits here. And then it has 2 home games here at Mackey Arena again this week. We're in the, we're getting to the part of the year where it's a midweek game and it's a weekend game nonstop, really. It gets a little bit lighter over Christmas break, but then we're up and at 'em here for the rest of the year. So if you don't already, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at Boilers Beyond. There's a whole lot to talk about now. You guys can help clear up my feed from Indiana fans that are victory lapping my tweet about this being a bit of a rock bottom for Purdue football. But come join the conversation there. You can always send over questions for the show. I welcome them. At Boilers Beyond there on Twitter. Email boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss an episode. I've seen some of you guys sending me your Spotify Wrapped. I get my Spotify Wrapped on the podcast side. Appreciate all of you for listening. And if you enjoy the show, give it a 5-star review. Tell some of your Purdue friends. Always fun interacting with you all, so thank you. But this past week here, Purdue gets a nice win, 81-65 at Rutgers. But the story comes with Purdue getting really run out of its own gym, 81-58 against Iowa State, where it was really everything going wrong for Purdue, and a lot of which was self-inflicted by Purdue, mind you. But everything that could have gone wrong went wrong to a degree. Purdue left a lot of points out there in the first half. Purdue got a little fortunate that Iowa State turned it over quite a bit. But Purdue didn't take advantage because Purdue left a lot of points out there. Purdue wasn't good at finishing around the basket. There were a lot of those tap-back situations where, when you look at the shooting numbers, it's kind of hard because there were times where Purdue's getting 2-3 tap-backs that don't go in. And Purdue was getting good looks from 3 at times that just weren't falling, but Purdue goes 13 for 35 from the field in the first half. That's not good. 2 for 10 from 3. And it had really missed an opportunity to take advantage of those Iowa State turnovers. When that dried up, when Iowa State stopped turning the ball over in the second half, its offensive efficiency really just won out. It was incredibly efficient. It made a lot of shots. It really rattled Purdue. And you give Iowa State all the credit here. It was a really impressive performance. You don't see teams come into Mackey Arena and do that a lot. You don't see teams come in and handle that initial punch, both from Purdue and from the Mackey crowd. Because when Purdue got a steal early on, I think it was Braden Smith going to the floor, kind of diving and throwing a pass up the court to C.J. Cox for a layup. I think that made it 11-9 maybe. And T.J. Otzelberger calls a timeout. And Mackey Arena sounded like it was about to take off. It was loud in there. It was really loud in there. And you kind of had that feeling that, oh boy, that was kind of the play that might do this. But Iowa State handled it really, really well in a way that teams don't often do. Purdue doesn't lose at Mackey Arena very often. And it looks like a national title contender. I mean, I'm sitting here right now looking at KenPom where Iowa State's now number 2 nationally. It's 6th in offensive efficiency, 2nd in defensive efficiency, 2nd in effective field goal percentage, 1st in turnover percentage. That's a really, really good team. I mean, you look at this statistical profile here, and that's going to be a really good team. It's projected to finish 28-3 on KenPom. That's elite. This is one where, it's way too early to get in these conversations, but that's someone Purdue is going to be keeping an eye on as far as seeding goes, because Purdue's going to want that Midwest path out of Chicago and to play its first round games in St. Louis, and Iowa State's going to be in that mix as well. That's a really, really good team. They spread out Purdue really well, attacked in so many different ways. You had a lot of backdoor action, and then Purdue has to guard against that, so you get some open threes. Iowa State just hit some tough shots, too. It wasn't just one thing, and that's what makes it really impressive. That was as thorough of a demolition as I can remember at Mackey Arena, with Purdue being good in quite some time. Just remarkably impressive. But from a Purdue perspective here, if you tell me before the game that Trey Kaufman-Renn and Fletcher Loyer are going to combine to go 3 for 16 from the floor, I think I can tell you how this game was going to go. And look, Fletcher Loyer goes 2 for 8. Kaufman-Renn goes 1 for 8. You're not going to beat good teams when that happens. You can talk all you want about depth and your bench players, and those are all wonderful things to have. But when your second and third best player do that, boy, it's tough to win games like that. It just is. That's basketball. It's really tough to win like that. And Braden Smith only has 11 points. With that profile of those two going 3 for 16, you would need Braden Smith to just have a Superman type of game, and he didn't. He played fine. He had some turnovers there in the second half, but sometimes it happens. Both of those guys have been good this year. They haven't. Trey Kaufman-Renn hasn't been as big of a scorer as he was last year, but Purdue's offense has still been really good. We'll get to some of the numbers here momentarily, but Fletcher Loyer's been awesome. I mean, he's still, after that game, shooting 46% from 3. He's leading Purdue in scoring, 14.4 a game. He's had a great start to the year. It wasn't his day. Okay, it happens. I know there's the inclination of folks to, when Fletcher Loyer doesn't shoot well, get upset that he's on the floor, but, I mean, you don't have to go back too far to that Memphis game where he didn't shoot well in the first half, and then he hits 4 or 5 threes in the second half, and is a major reason why Purdue survived that game with a win. Like, if you're going to do that thing where you just bench a guy because he doesn't shoot well in the first half, well, that might have cost Purdue the Memphis game. So, it didn't take long to get the takes on Fletcher Loyer flying this year, but I did think Purdue got rattled a little bit. It reminded me of the Houston game last year in this way. Purdue handled it well against Houston, but the blitzing the ball screens, the getting the ball out from there, when you have a decent look from 3 against a defense like that, you have to be ready to let it rip. And that was something that I thought Purdue did really well against Houston last year. I remember Miles Colvin and Cam Heide both getting a lot of shots. Fletcher Loyer got a lot early, and then Houston kind of focused enough attention to take him out of it. But you're not going to get wide open looks, but when you have a window, you have to let it rip. And there were times where Purdue wasn't letting it rip when it had a decent look from 3, and it gets into its mode there where it's searching for a better shot that never comes. There's something to be said, and there's nothing more beautiful than the highlight clips where someone passes up a good shot for a great shot. It just looks awesome. It's gorgeous stuff. But when you pass up a good shot against a really good defensive team, sometimes that quality of shot never comes back. And it felt like Purdue was falling into that a little bit in this game. And I think as that started to go, as Purdue had empty possessions, and as the second half really just started with a punch to the gut, I thought Purdue was pretty rattled in a way that I didn't expect to see. This is a really veteran team. You have three guys, with Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Renn, who have played a ton of basketball together, who have really been through it all, from the highs to the lows. I didn't expect to see them get rattled in this way, but it is something to note, because I don't like getting too specific here, but this isn't the first time that's happened to Trey Kaufman-Renn this year. This game wasn't called super tightly on the interior. By no means do I think the officiating was poor or had anything to do with the outcome, but a lot of physicality in this game, and I think Trey Kaufman-Renn got a little rattled, and he's got to find a way to channel that well, because he didn't against Memphis either, and there's more of this coming. It's just getting started. The Big Ten is coming, and I think we've all watched enough Big Ten basketball to know what that means. It's going to be physical. It's going to be really physical. But, in all of this doesn't matter that much, right? It's funny because I'm such a college football person. College football is my favorite sport by a mile. And I've been sitting here all day with the selection committee and the playoff and the value of these non-conference games in football, where losing is such a big deal. Whereas in basketball, no one outside of Purdue and Iowa State fans will remember this game on Selection Sunday. Sure, it'll be on the good wins. On Iowa State's team sheet, it'll show, good win at Purdue. This isn't a bad loss for Purdue. It's not. That's why you play these games. Because Purdue could have welcomed Chicago State in. Purdue could have welcomed in Southern Indiana. And Purdue could have won by 50. Everyone goes home happy singing Hail Purdue. But you don't get any better. You don't get anything exposed. Purdue got exposed here on some stuff. And now the positive of this is you have all this time to make up for it, to get better in those areas. Sure, there are some things that just are what they are with your team, but this doesn't impact your season much at all. Maybe for seeding, maybe, we'll see. But this is why you play these games. This is why Matt Painter talks about, you have to be willing to lose these games when you schedule them. But Purdue's bet here, and it's been right on a lot of this, is that down the road, Purdue's going to be a better team because of this game. And I certainly think this is the type of game that's, to get cliche, it's a Final Four type of game. It's an Elite Eight type of game. That was big time. That was a big time opponent that came in and really had a nice day against Purdue, and just not a lot good really for Purdue. It is what it is. It was just one of those days. Sometimes it happens, man. Sometimes it happens. Basketball is a tricky sport. I did see someone made a good point, with the three-pointer being such a big deal now, it shifts these games a lot more than when the game was more of a 2-point game. It's just a math thing. And for Purdue to go 4 of 18 from 3 at home, you don't see that. That just so rarely happens, but just an all-around bad day for Purdue. I'll give Purdue some credit. It is 1-0 in Big Ten play, and that's a big deal. Rutgers is bad. Rutgers is really bad. It gave Purdue a little push, cut it to a 1-point game there halfway through the first half, and then Purdue really took it to them. The game was never as close as the final score indicated. The final score tells you it was a 16-point game, which I think the spread was 15.5, so it mattered to some people. But nonetheless, Purdue had that game in the bag. Purdue was up big. Braden Smith was phenomenal in that. But it was interesting. One thing I take away from that, I don't know if you ever listen to the post-game interviews, especially on the road, where really it's just Brian Newbert, and whether it's Sam King or Nathan Baird, they're just interviewing the guys in the hallway of these away venues. And Trey Kaufman-Renn was talking after the Rutgers game, where he got asked about getting off to a good start in the Big Ten standings and looking to win the Big Ten. And he didn't really have any interest in talking about the Big Ten. He just kind of brought up, our goal is to win the national championship. I'm so locked in on that. And I do wonder sometimes just the approach of this season where everyone knows, and Purdue knows this, the season will be defined by what happens in the NCAA tournament. Whether Purdue wins the Big Ten or not, whether Purdue goes 25-6 or 27-4 or whatever it may be in the regular season, this is going to come down to two things. Does Purdue get to the Final Four in Indianapolis? If not, it's going to be a real bummer. And then does Purdue win the national championship or not? Because that's kind of what this season's going to come down to. And I do wonder sometimes when the players know that so much, when the realities aren't hidden to folks. I just kind of wonder what that psyche's like when you have a game like this where, yes, you want to win every game, but deep down everyone kind of knows that there's bigger things to come at the end of this season. I thought the team 2 years ago that made the national title game was terrific at that because they lost a game right around this time at Northwestern and bounced back from it terrifically well. Now we'll see what Purdue does here. This week, Purdue has Minnesota and Marquette at Mackey Arena. Both of those teams are bad. Minnesota did win its Big Ten opener against Indiana. Give the Gophers credit there. Also on its resume, lose by 23 to Missouri, double-digit losses to San Francisco and Santa Clara. Not exactly Gonzaga out of the West Coast Conference there. A loss to Stanford. It's not a good Minnesota team. It's just not. Nico Medved has his hands full there. I mean, good for Minnesota for supposedly putting more money into its basketball program with the Medved hire, but it's a tough job, man. It's a really tough job. I get why they moved on from Ben Johnson, but I don't know how much of a chance he ever had there. It's a tough job. Cade Tyson's good. Cade Tyson's a good player. Was at Belmont. Didn't really get it going at North Carolina. He's at Minnesota now. He's a really tough player. Aside from him, though, just not a whole lot on that Minnesota team. And then it's sometimes funny when you schedule these games in advance, and even you look at last season when Purdue went to Marquette, and it was a real tough Marquette team. I don't remember what Marquette was seeded in the NCAA tournament, maybe a 3 seed. Marquette was tough, and now this year Marquette's not very good. It's going to be 5-5 coming into this game in Mackey. It's just ugly, man. I mean, a 23-point loss to Indiana, a 20-point loss to Wisconsin yesterday, losses in there to Maryland, to Dayton, to Oklahoma. None of those teams are inside the top 50 at Ken Pom. And possibly the most jarring, because I was watching this a little bit on Tuesday as well, Marquette needed overtime to get by Valparaiso, who led for most of that game. Then Valpo's two best players, one gets hurt, the other fouls out, and then Marquette still needs overtime to get by it. Valpo's not that good. Valpo was 6 days removed from losing at home to Southern Indiana, and yet it almost goes into Fiserv Forum and beats Marquette. Interesting case study up there because Shaka Smart is very much not a transfer portal guy, and so be it. Everyone is entitled to build their roster however they like, but it's just not, this team isn't very good. It's not gone very well for them. See where things go, but how does Purdue respond here? That's my question, because yes, Purdue's done some good things. Purdue has showcased the ability, the high-level play that it takes to be a Final Four team, to be a national title contender. Purdue's still in that mix, but now it's really been popped in the mouth. I'd be really surprised if Purdue didn't bounce back well from it. Got to see it, though. I did want to point out a couple of things here. 1 month into the season, just some quick observations. Even with a subpar performance against Iowa State, Purdue's number one in Ken Pom offensive efficiency. Just ridiculously good on the offensive glass. 6th nationally in offensive rebounding percentage, and that includes the 2 games where Purdue didn't have Trey Kaufman-Renn on the floor. I suspect if you remove those, Purdue might be even higher. But Purdue's not getting to the foul line much. One of the lowest free throw rates in the country. I don't quite know what to make of it, but Trey Kaufman-Renn is kind of the picture of that. He has not been getting fouled as much. He's only taken 17 free throws so far this year. That's a couple of free throws a game. And last season, he took 210 in 36 games. So over 7 free throws a game last year. Big difference there. He's obviously playing a different position. He's playing the 4. You're seeing more of those push shots. You're seeing more of him in the short roll. Something to monitor. Something to monitor there. We'll see if Purdue tries to do something. Bit of a rocky start for Omer Meyer on the shooting front. His shooting numbers aren't great. He is tremendously confident out there. You watch him. He takes a lot of shots. For his time on the floor, I'm not good enough at math on the fly here, but he's taken 63 shots in 145 minutes. He's taken more shots than C.J. Cox, who starts. He's taken 22 more shots in fewer minutes than Jakari Harris, which is fine. He's a player you want getting stuff, but shooting 38% from the field, 26.5% from 3. Bit of a learning curve there. Still no reason to be pessimistic about Omer Meyer's future or anything, but there's a learning curve there. There's an adjustment period as he's seen so far. That's kind of all I had, really. I think it's still a little early to draw some observations. Daniel Jacobson's had his ups and downs as he gets comfortable in this role with Purdue. He's made all these shots in a row up until the game on Saturday, but staying on the court is going to be a real challenge with him. You saw it there at the end of that first half against Iowa State. I forgot to talk about this. He picks up 2 fouls pretty quick, and then Oscar Clough picks up his second foul with like 4.5 to go, and Purdue has to go the rest of the half playing small with Trey Kaufman-Renn at the 5 and Jack Benner at the 4. Purdue had to really battle, and Purdue was pretty fortunate to only be down 4 at half. Purdue can't afford a ton of minutes like that. You can do it. We saw Purdue have a pretty decent team last season without having the big time size. But boy, when you see the difference it makes, it's a real bummer when Purdue has to play minutes like that, and it really just makes Purdue less effective as a team. But all in all, through a month, Purdue got popped in the mouth on Saturday. That doesn't change that Purdue looks the part of a real contender in the Big Ten, in the national picture. And we'll see where things go this week. We're in the final stretch here of 2025. Christmas is just around the corner. All those Thanksgiving leftovers are gone. We're all checking items off of our lists, but how about your insurance program? Did you review that here in 2025? If not, now's the time. Couple weeks left in the year. I'm an agent with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, and I'm here to make sure that your insurance program is exactly where it needs to be for the upcoming year. Give me a call, 317-846-5861. Email me, jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com. Let's make sure you're all set for 2026. A couple of things I did want to touch on here. I wonder if we've seen Purdue football in a bowl game for the last time. And before you freak out, Purdue's going to get back to a 6-6 season. Purdue's going to get back to bowl eligibility in what is currently viewed as that. But boy, has today been a day that really makes me wonder about the future of bowl games, about the viability of all of this. It was one thing to see Iowa State and Kansas State opt out of bowl games with coaching changes. Notre Dame opting out of a bowl game is a pretty big deal. With all due respect to Iowa State and Kansas State, ESPN isn't losing any sleep because it doesn't get to air an Iowa State or Kansas State game. It sounded like Notre Dame was all set to go to the Pop-Tart Bowl, which is, almost fittingly for bowl season, the Pop-Tart Bowl has become one of the more premier non-playoff bowl games, so to speak. But Notre Dame opting out's a really big deal. Obviously, that's one of the biggest brands. They're a viewership gold mine for these networks. I just wonder, man. You look at this with the playoff being such a big deal. You have the portal starting on January 2nd. You have high school recruiting. All these guys are signed now. They're going to enroll at the semester. I just wonder. I just wonder about the future of these bowl games. You see coaching changes the way they are now. With coaches getting fired earlier and earlier in the year, to where you have some of these teams with interim coaches. Like, this didn't happen all that much before. Certainly not with fired coaches. But now, like, you have Penn State playing in a bowl game with a fired coach. LSU is playing in a bowl game. Its coach has been fired. I'm sure there are more. I mean, we have an interim coach in the college football playoff. We have several coordinators. I mean, Ohio State's offensive coordinator, Oregon's offensive coordinator, A&M. Who am I forgetting here? Those guys are all gone. Ole Miss, obviously, its head coach is gone. Its offensive coordinator sticking around. But boy, it's just different. It's a different landscape now. And with these bowl games just having been devalued both by the playoff, by ESPN, by fans, just all around, it doesn't mean what it used to. And there's never been any inherent meaning to these. They've always been essentially an exhibition in a warm weather spot, with the exception of the Little Caesars Bowl, not a warm weather spot. It is what it is. I just wonder what the future looks like when these rosters are so transient, when for a lot of these teams, a bowl's not that big of a deal. And, let's face it, I don't know how excited fans get to go to these anymore. I've been to two of them. Been to three of them. I was at the Rose Bowl when I was 2. I don't know if that really counts, but I was at the 2 Music City Bowls, and it's fun. It's a fun time, but man, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of money for a game where a lot of players opt out now. I just don't know. I'm curious to see what happens in the future there. The college football playoff's a mess. It doesn't really apply to Purdue too much right now. Better days lie ahead for Purdue football. I can assure you of that. Things are never as good or as bad as they seem. Things are pretty bleak right now. If you're a Purdue fan in the aftermath of watching Indiana win the Big Ten title in what's really just become a Disney movie. Unbelievable. But better days lie ahead for Purdue, but boy, this selection committee stuff is nuts. Flipping Notre Dame and Miami on the last day. Every year it's something new, and these guys have a really difficult task they're charged with. I get it, but this isn't great. This isn't great for college football that we're having these debates on Selection Sunday. We'll see, man. If you just want to put your mind in a blender, just map out everything that's going to be changing in college football in the next 5 to 10 years. Boy, it's a lot of stuff. But I did want to point out 3 Purdue football players have announced their intention to enter the portal. The portal opens on January 2nd. So we're going to have a episode over the Christmas time. I'm going to record a couple in advance. I'll be doing some family stuff, traveling, seeing some family. So I'll have 2 pre-recorded episodes. One will be for the week of the 23rd, right? Week of the 22nd. I'll have a pre-recorded episode for that. Probably a basketball one. See if we can get a guest on for that. I've got someone who I want to have on. And then that week of the 29th, we'll do a pre-recorded portal preview. Obviously, there may be some players who pop in the portal in between now and then that I miss out on, but it should give us a decent idea. We'll talk about Purdue's biggest areas of need in the portal cycle and kind of how Purdue can get into a better spot from just a strictly transfer portal, what it can go get type of deal. And then I wanted to close with some credit to Purdue volleyball. I'll be the first to admit that I don't talk about anything besides Purdue football and basketball on here. I don't have the bandwidth to cover all of these sports at the level that they deserve if I'm going to claim to be someone who really understands it and really knows what's going on. I certainly don't know the sport of volleyball well enough to provide anything insightful, but I'll give them credit here. Dave Shondel's done a really good job with that program. They lost like their 4 best players from last year all to the portal. Whether it was NIL, whether it was a financial motive or what, I don't know. But to backfill that, what I'm guessing Purdue isn't paying top dollar in the volleyball market. Back in the Sweet 16 here, pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. I think they finished 3rd in the Big Ten, which is, I understand, the best conference in the country in volleyball. Really, really impressive. Got to give the flowers where they're due. That's big time. I know they play later this week, SMU in the Sweet 16, and then would play Pitt in the Elite 8. So, credit to them. You're giving credit where it's due for sure. As I said, guys, I'll be back next week. A couple of basketball games here that we'll break down, and then Purdue-Auburn. God, the year's almost over. Time's flying when you're having fun, but be sure, follow the show on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond, and send me some questions. We'll need some stuff to talk about next week. Send me questions on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. Email, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. If you like the show, give us a 5-star review. Tell a friend about it. I really appreciate you guys. It's been another fun year here. We will be back next week to talk. Until then, guys, stay warm, take care. Talk to you soon.